I'm the only barrier between you and the coffee break. So I will manage that and will try to do my best. So just to move fast, this is a story, as any story with a client. It's pretty old. It's like 4 years ago. Speaking about me, I teach at the university, but I'm not like 100% like in the academia. I invest a lot of time there, but I'm not like a full-time professor, and I'm the manager of a design company. We have 55 people, but it means that I'm not 100% a businessman. So I'm basically at the intersection of those two worlds, and that means that in the morning with the design faculty, we think about how are we going to train new designers in the next 10 years. Do we need to put feminism or post-colonialism or facilitation or business design into the design curricula? And in the afternoon, I have conversations like, hey, we need an application. And then the second conversation is going to be, yes, you need an application. Please take us. Who's going to use that and why? What kind of value that application is going to bring to your organization? Those are it's a weird life. So this story is about like the afternoon, and it's about real estate. Just to give you some information, like the real estate market in the US is pretty stable. It's a transactional industry, so you buy a house and you sell a house, and the volume of transaction is pretty stable after the crisis, but the ownership rate in the United States is increasing. And in terms of purpose, owning a house or buying a house is something that we do for social good, because it's something good, or just this could be like an investment. And so we are in a rush so that, a house is going to cost more and more and more. Pretty weird, pretty weak definition, okay? So the prices are growing, and the number of people who are going to own a house are growing. And that was the company. They sold the company to another one. So if you're going to Google them, you're going to be redirected to another one. And they were pretty big, and their unique value proposition was, you visit a house with us, and we're going to give you a mortgage. So it's going to be an end-to-end. So it means that they had like all the organization of a real estate, plus a bank, plus a legal department, plus anyone who's able to conclude like the legal deal of the house for you. Okay, so this is the story. I'm gonna mention the time because the coffee break is there. So we can divide as any story. It's pretty. We can divide the story into 3 chapters. So chapter 1 is like the first 10 weeks, or what we call delivering. And this is a picture of their office in Atlanta, Georgia. But the real story is that we received the phone call. Like, we have a problem. We invested like 5 months with a big international consultancy, and now we have 60 developers. They don't have anything to code. So please, can you come to Atlanta? It's not a matter of money. We want someone who's going to do that in 2 weeks. That was the beginning of the story. And of course, like anyone who has a sort of mental sanity can say no, but it's not me. So that's why everything started. So you have 2 weeks to produce something, because they are out of any roadmap. You cannot do like direct research. So you're relying on desk research and any data that they were able to collect. You design a journey, and buying a house could be like 3 months or a year. Imagine like what kind of journey we are going to talk, and how many touch points you have, because you have like the agents, you have the owners, you have the buyers, you have the people at the customer care. So everything was pretty messy, but it's okay. You do some benchmark, you see the competition, and then it's like you have 2 weeks. So basically we divided that into 12 days working on Saturday too, and we decided to have like sprints of 2 weeks. Of 2 days. That is the mental. So you design something, you have the framing in the first day in the morning, then you sketch something, then you review, you prepare a prototype, you test, and the second day you have something that at least is not something that comes just from you, but that's a low confidence validation. That was the room. Do you imagine that American rooms where you don't have windows, the lights are dimmerable, and you say, but it's 11 p.m. right now. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. That was the situation. And I mean, I'm not gonna show. We were able, like in those 2 weeks, to structure at least the basis. We're talking about the basis, 2 weeks, the basis of something that was able to scale in form of some scenarios, some user stories, and some components. And then they were so happy. They had this kind of celebration when I was kicked out of the building, because as an Italian, I said, okay, we're going to have a celebration. So I brought a bottle of Prosecco. And in the minute of the celebration, I was ready to open the bottle, and the guy from security said, we have a no alcohol policy, you have to go out. That was the big party we had. Out of the building. Okay, so after those 2 weeks and the other weeks to consolidate the system, we started with another approach, trying to help the product team, because they got a design team of 7 people in-house, plus product managers, plus developers, plus owners, in a very messy distinction with departments that were not so easy to identify. So we moved from the artifact to the process, which is pretty, usual sometimes when you meet those companies, trying to define a new way of doing sprints, trying to establish the tools so that we can use the same tools, and we can use the tools to receive feedback and to provide feedback in an asynchronous way. We don't need 4 hours or 5 hours of meeting a day and blah, blah, blah. And we are a single team. Everyone is going to win or lose together, and everything that she said better than me. And every that idea, we were also able to help them to think something that are not user stories or requirements, but are assumptions. Since we didn't have any real data about the mental model of people and how do they think about buying a house. So you've seen that a lot of time. As soon as any user story was, validated, or with still a medium level of confidence, you do everything that designers do, and we love that, and and blah blah blah. Okay, and of course, something that was pretty harsh for them was to define rituals for so many different people in different time zones. And the problem with the rituals is that it seems that as soon as you have a ritual, you agree, you are coordinated. No, rituals is something that we need after that we are a single team. Rituals are not going to change the world. It's a way so that we can be effective. So the ability to structure those rituals were pretty hard, because you got people all around. They don't want to work on Friday, and they don't want to work on Saturday. So this schedule of the 2-week sprint was, as you can see, pretty bad. Okay, at the end of this solving, we were not just in the place of producing the artifact, but we were in the place of helping them to reimagine how do they think. And we know that design is not how it looks, it's how it works. So we were a step above the traditional, bottleneck design rule. And then we did another year together, rebuilding our contract and rebuilding our agreement in something that we can call bridging. And that was the evil room with the dimmerable lights. The idea is that when you think about user stories and when you think about scenarios, you probably divide and fragment something that for people is the same, is an experience in some micro moments, in some moments, and it works for production. It's pretty good if you want to put something down on the earth. But people, they don't divide the selection, the listing of a house. I had that house to my favorite. I want to visit it out. I want to book a visit, and then I am in the house. And what has happened after the visit? So, we can depict them as a lot of user stories, but they are connected. For some people, and other people, they have other ideas. So here we tried, after a year and a half, the level of trust was pretty high, so we said, okay, we don't want to talk about features anymore. We don't want to put features in the product backlog. We want to put assumptions in the product backlog. So let's use assumptions card. What is your assumption? So because you have a product right now. You have a product roadmap, we can code for 2 years, but what is the assumption that you think is gonna provide value to the whole organization and to the people you wanna serve? So we started not using user stories, but we started using those like opportunity cards where the good part of the opportunity card is that you have to declare an outcome. It's not that we're going to build that feature. You have to say why that feature is going to be something good for that specific environment. So everything started with declaring every single outcome of any assumption and any opportunity. Then they started this process that was not set of metrics and KPIs, OKR, no matter what kind of framework you use to define metrics. We were able to bridge those opportunities to outcomes, and that changed also the way we did like the test with the right people, because I mean, having the ability to recruit people of different ages, different ideas, different mental models, because I think that maybe you have a house, right? And I don't think that you are the same person and you have the same mental model in the way you select a house. They got, like, say, thousands of houses, and it's so hard for someone to select and to meet the house that you want, of your dreams. That maybe the house is there, but you know, the distance. And we started in the research repository stuff. So everything that we were able to learn something, we were able to capture that learning and put that learning, even to developers, even to anyone into the organization. Everything was more mature, and the discussion was not about this single component. We were able to do experiments, and I hate that because you don't even imagine how many cards design we tried into the A/B testing, and how many different ways for different people according to their browsing history, how many cards like you can do. So the design system changed a lot, and we got like variations according to your registered user or not registered user, variations according to the house, if you had any visit in the past or not. And we found a correlation between, that is pretty simple. Like if you visit a house and you want to revisit the same house, you have a super strong correlation that you're going to do an offer or make a bid. So we switched the goals, the tactical goals, from the transaction to the visits, because the more people can visit a house, the more you have the probability that they can be interested or they can make an offer. Anyway, the conclusion, and I'm in line, wow. The conclusion here is that in the design business, and especially with designers, we use design for everything. Like you call yourself enterprise architect, I'm pretty sure that we will call enterprise designers, but we will talk about that. And even any word, you can put design with any word. You can say pen design, or like laptop design, or cake design. It's okay. It's okay. We're flexible. That's why you have the design maturity. But the process that I just said right now, is a process of design maturity, or there's something else? What is hidden in this? Like, I mean, my point of view is the point of view of a designer, but the moving from doing things to decide what is worth to be done and to decide what are the outcome that we want to generate is not something that we do just because we are designers. It's something that anyone can do according to their skill or different, mindset. And that's why we have those guys, because meaning is slippery and the things are not what they seem, even if you call that design maturity. And yesterday we got this kind of poll trying to understand if you fit yourself into like the T-Rex, the robot, or into the octopus and the other mystery that we will discuss afternoon. And they are in two doors. And there is also here like a light correlation between the male and the T-Rex, but it's light. Trust me, it's light. I was able to collect 2 women. They said, "I love the T-Rex. I'm gonna go there." So it's not a scientific correlation, but Here they divided the robot and the octopus, but behind the table you have the octopus robot. You have both. So the problem is that the way we frame what we experience and the language that we use also is embedded into the way we use the language and the way we define things. And those definitions, I mean, the world has a variety of point of views, and that's why I think, especially here, that we have to remove the idea of design maturity. That was the trick of the title. The title was a fake. And we have to use enterprise maturity. But as soon as we move from design maturity to enterprise maturity, we need to define together what are the elements that we can measure or we can think that are going to give us the idea of a mature enterprise. So in my own personal experience, this is not going to be like a lecture, I discovered it, okay? This is me talking about the history, the story that I told you. First of all, we have like a dimension, and the dimension is ownership. As a consultant, our first goal is always in the do. Please, can you produce an artifact for us? Please, can you produce an artifact for us? And then, as soon as you establish trust, as soon as you're able to have a shared perspective with the client, you can move to changing the process. That was our second part of the story, to define a roadmap, to define what is worth to be done, and then also to impact. But do we need to do that or not? Is there a reason? And that do at the end is the purpose, or is what you do. We need to push the number of transactions. What is the general purpose? And trust me, if you were a designer, you would know that you don't sit at that table so much, because they want you to produce stuff, not to define the world or define the stuff. But it happens, as it happened with owners. So the second dimension is the ambition, and I loved the definition of enterprise of people who share the same ambition. I loved that this morning. So what is the ambition? So are you calling us because you want to optimize like a product or service that you have? You want to optimize something. Do you want to transform that into something else that still has a relationship with the product that was before? Or do you want to do something totally new? You're thinking about what you're going to be in the next 5 years, and so what are the products and services that you want to offer to the people? So maybe we can start like a proof of value of those ideas. If you mix them, you see that the playground where you can have an impact in terms of enterprise maturity is the darker one. And it's an art game. You're not there with, it doesn't require just the craft of design or the craft that we teach at university when we train designers. It requires a variety of other ideas. And first of all, an idea about the future, an idea about the world. What is the world we want to live in? If we want to impact and if we want to change the purpose and the meaning. It is not so easy for people that they have, let's say, 20, 22 years old when they are at the university. I mean, they have their own idea of the world. Sometimes it's scary, but they have their own idea of the world. We can add something more, talking about innovation. In terms of structure, I'm stealing your words. In terms of structure, the organizational model of innovation is not the same according to different organizations. So some organizations, they start these big projects about digital transformation. They hire designers maybe outside in consultancies like us. They bridge some teams and we'll see if something happens. Other companies, they have their own internal design team, and maybe that team is a bottleneck because they ask just to produce artifacts to the team. Or maybe sometimes that team is able to connect several departments, and maybe they sit at the table of the value definition, but they cannot define the value. Other companies, they participate to innovation labs. Other companies, they hire startups or they fund startups. And other companies, they just open new ventures, especially for banks. They don't do innovation inside. They open like a new brand with a new bank, a digital new bank, and they found the new ventures. The The change here is that moving from the corporate to the new venture, the ability and even the distance between you, the new supplier, and the C-level is shorter, especially in the startup and the new ventures. So we can also mix that to the level of ownership and try to understand, as soon as you start a new project, what is my role right now, and can I impact the purpose or not? Because otherwise it's frustration. Like you are in the wrong table, and in that situation, your desire to impact the purpose is not going to be met. It's not going to work. And I have dozens of frustrated designers because the world is not able to understand them because they are so good and they are so artists and they want to transform everything. Okay. So just to close, we can say that enterprise maturity is a condition where that happens in some specific moments when we can influence and achieve a purpose. It could be impacted by value definition, ownership, and innovation model. And the story I told you is like a story when we started at the top doing stuff without any rest for 2 weeks with an internal team, and then shifting and moving into like a layer where we were able to give that impact. Maybe we were lucky, or who knows. But we know that the dynamic is that we need to recognize if we have ownership in value definition, who is defining the value for this organization? What is the definition of value from a single project to the whole organization? As soon as we have a shared understanding of the value, and maybe we are engaged about that value, who's going to translate that value to all the people in the organization, to all the suppliers, to all the companies, all the organizations that we need to put that value and to make that value concrete? It's not so easy. I mean, it happens. I am the example that it happens, not so much. And since the first meeting, since the first moment that I talk with someone new, I try to understand if we are in the position of doing that or not, and what we can do to move from that, weak playground to a more intense playground. Thank you so much.